Remember how I've said some of the Psalms address very concrete circumstances? The circumstance behind today's Psalm selection for morning prayer from the daily lectionary could not be any more specific. It is a penitential psalm, meaning it is a prayer to God asking for God's forgiveness. And we recite it every year at our Ash Wednesday service. Hello, I'm Stuart Baskin, pastor of First Presbyterian Church of Tyler, Texas, and this is your daily devotional for Friday, October 11th, 2024. Psalm 51 is the very model of penitence. The heading spells out exactly the circumstance behind it. The heading reads, "To the leader, a psalm of David when the prophet Nathan came to him after he had gone into Bathsheba." I know you know the story, but it is absolutely worth summarizing. We find the story in 2 Samuel chapters 11 and 12. The story begins with this barbed statement. In the spring of the year, the time when kings go out to battle, David sent Joab with his officers and all Israel with him. They ravaged the Ammonites and besieged Rabbah, but David remained at Jerusalem. The writer might as well have said, in the spring of the year, the time when real kings go out to battle, David sent his army, but stayed at home in the safety and comfort of his house. And the story goes downhill from there. First, David sees his neighbor's wife Bathsheba bathing in her house. He is immediately aroused and asks his servants about her. They tell her who she is, that she is the wife of Uriah the Hittite, one of David's soldiers. David sends for her to come over, and she comes to his house where he has intercourse with her. After some time, she sends word back to him that she's become pregnant. Now David is in a bit of a jam, so he hatches a plot. He sends for Uriah to return to Jerusalem, ostensibly to give David a report of the fighting, but David's real purpose is for Uriah to go home and sleep with his wife so that everyone would think that the child was his. But unlike David, Uriah is a man of high principle. Instead of going to his house, he sleeps outside with the servants. When David finds out, he calls Uriah back in and asks him why he had not slept in his own house and in his own bed. Uriah answers, "The ark and Israel and Judah remain in booths," that is, tents or temporary shelters, "and my lord Joab and the servants of my lord are camping in the open field. Shall I then go to my house to eat and to drink and to lie with my wife? As you live and as your soul lives, I will not do such a thing." Then, after another failed attempt at coercing Uriah to sleep with his wife, David writes a message to Joab, seals it, and gives it to Uriah to deliver. Only Uriah does not know that the message he carries contains orders that will result in his death. Then, later, when David receives word from the front that David has been killed in battle, he sends for Bathsheba and makes her his own wife. The contrast between Uriah and David could not be more profound. Now, the story could have ended there, but it doesn't. God sent the prophet Nathan to David to confront him with his sin. Nathan tells David a parable. The parable is of a poor man who has a lamb that he and his family love as a pet. He raises the lamb along with his children, and they all love that little lamb. But there was a rich man next door, and a traveler comes to the rich man's house, and of course the rich man has an obligation to provide a feast for the traveler. But loath to take and kill one of his own flock, he takes the poor man's beloved lamb and has it prepared for the feast, leaving the poor man and his family brokenhearted. On hearing the story, David immediately declares in his anger that the rich man deserves to die because he had no pity. And with that, David has walked right into Nathan's trap. Nathan confronts David with this brutal fact: "You are the man." And in a withering account of how God himself had made David king over Israel, Nathan lays out the full nature of David's cowardice and treachery. To his credit, all David can say in reply is, "I have sinned against the Lord." With this story in mind, Psalm 51 makes all kinds of sense. It begins, "Have mercy on me, O God, according to your steadfast love. According to your abundant mercy, blot out my transgressions. Wash me thoroughly from my iniquity and cleanse me from my sin. It goes on to say, create in me a clean heart, O God, and put a new and right spirit within me. Do not cast me away from your presence, and do not take your Holy Spirit from me. Restore to me the joy of your salvation, and sustain me with a willing spirit. And in the final stanza it reads, O Lord, open my lips, and my mouth will declare your praise. For you have no delight in sacrifice. If I were to give a burnt offering, you would not be pleased. The sacrifice acceptable to God is a broken spirit. A broken and contrite heart, O God, you will not despise. I dare say we have all had moments in our lives when we committed sins that we were able to justify to ourselves, only to be confronted with the brutal facts later. Psalm 51 gives us exactly the right words that we need to express our sorrow before God. Tomorrow, a hymn in praise of God the Creator. But for now, may God continue to bless you and keep you in all that you do this day and in all the days ahead.